Welcome to our virtual adventure. Join our fun and festive principal, Jeff Frankowiak, as he kicks off this adventure live from the most wonderful place on earth.
Hello, Rochester Community Schools. This is Jeff Frankowiak, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Big Bright Light Show Virtual Adventure. We learned that about 17 years ago, the Rochester Downtown Developmental Authority Executive Director, Christy Trevarro, had the inspiration right here in Disney World. So we thought, what better than come back to the source of the inspiration at Magic Kingdom here on Main Street to kick off our first virtual adventure for the year. So sit back and enjoy, and it's going to be a great show.
During our virtual tour, we will explore Rochester community helpers, the people and perspectives that bring the show to life, how the light show works, the parts and interactions that make the Big Bright Light Show possible in downtown Rochester, and finally, how we can stay connected and get involved. We'd like to share some future happenings happening in Rochester, as well as your suggestions for collaborative action for things that we can do together as a learning community to create other events. The Big Bright Light Show showcases community and creativity in action. Helpers with different roles and with multiple perspectives connect with one another to create this event. We are highlighting a few of those main helpers this year. Let's say hello to our first community helper, Rochester Community Schools Virtual Campus Transitional Kindergarten and Kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Sierra Holmes. At Virtual Campus, we value connection and community. Mrs. Holmes invites her class family to learn more about the importance of community and community helpers. And she does such an amazing job creating a warm, welcoming environment that we asked her to share her approach with our whole school.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mrs. Holmes, a virtual TK kindergarten teacher, and I'd just like to share about how we talk about community. First, we talk about how we're a class family. So we're all coming together from different places, and when we come together, we're now part of a group, and that group is this class family. So with us being a class family, we create relationships with each other. We help each other out. We give each other compliments. And so I use that to talk about community. So when I move on to community, I mentioned how, just like how we're a class family, the people that we live near, we're all part of this community. So we're like a bigger family. And so when we come together, we are making sure we are being nice to each other. We're creating relationships with each other, just like how we do with our class family. When I mention community helpers, I talk about how the community helpers helps to keep our family, our community, right, protected and safe, and how they help keep our routines and help keep order in our community. So when we talk about community, I talk about a class family and how we're now a part of a bigger family. And then I also talk about how important our community workers are to help keep us protected and to keep us safe. So that's what we talk about. Thanks for listening.
Mrs. Holmes talked about our class community. She talked about creating a class family, that when we come together, we are now part of a larger group. And that group is not just our class's friends, it's also our school community and our community family, where we have nice and supportive relationships and we're positive with one another. She also talked about the importance of our community helpers. They keep our family and community safe, they support routines and order in our communities, and they also make events like the Big Bright Light Show possible. Maybe now is a good time to pause this video and think about members of your community. You yourself are surrounded by others that help all the time. You have your class, you have your school, and many other members of the community, as well as, of course, your family and friends. So why don't you take some time, jot down some members of your community that are there to support you. People and perspectives. Let's meet our next community helper, Ms. Trevarro. Visit the city of Rochester, and you will probably see Ms. Christy Trevarro, the Executive Director of the Downtown Development Authority. We're going to learn a little bit more about what she does to support the Big Bright Light Show in Rochester, Michigan.
The idea for the light show came about 16 years ago when I was on a trip with my family to Disney World, and we were at Hollywood Studios, which is one of the parks at Disney World. And they did something back then called the Osborne Family Spectacle of Lights. And it was very much like the Big Bright Light Show, except they had it covering this backlot area, which looked like a street in New York. And it had flying angels and spinning carousels and three-story trees. It was a lot bigger and brighter than what we have. But we were inspired by it because when we saw it, we felt like there was something there. And we had never seen it before. And so they do, of course, it's Disney. They made it snow, and they made it sound like an old-time radio show. And in the radio show, they were talking about that, wow, it's snowing. It could be this place. It could be this place. It could be Rochester. And we knew they meant Rochester, New York, since we were on the streets of New York. But it just kind of stuck with us that they said Rochester. And then when the lights went on, we got this chill. I have them right now, just even talking about it. We got this chill because it just was so special and so amazing. But then we started looking at it and saying, wow, there's all these people looking at these storefronts. And if these were real businesses, those people would go into those storefronts. But instead, they're just walking through and leaving. So that's where the idea started. And then many steps later and many iterations that we're able to bring it back and make it the Big Bright Light Show. So this takes a great amount of people to make the light show happen. So of course it takes the team of electricians that actually install the lights. It takes our team here with the DDA and PSD here in downtown Rochester that we do fundraising for the lights. We do the marketing. We work with all the businesses and property owners to allow us to put the lights on their buildings. And then also big sponsors like our friends up at Fox Automotive. John Fox is our premier sponsor of the light show and has been for many years. And it's all those community partners together that make the light show happen. And of course our friends at Channel 7 that usually come down on Lanyap and they interview Santa and see the reindeer. And then Dave Llewellyn, who is an anchor on Channel 7, he does the Light the Town chant, and that's how the holidays officially start. And they always start, and they have for the last 15 years with the Big Bright Light Show, with the song It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year by Andy Williams. It takes 8 weeks to put up the lights. Some years move a little faster than others. We started earlier this year because with everything going on, we wanted to give people their holiday spark a little bit earlier. But generally it takes about 8 weeks because it's 1.5 million lights. The lights actually, it's a really interesting system. A lot of people think that they're like net lights, that they're cut and they just put them up on the buildings, but that's not the case. They actually are, they're 9-foot strands, and instead of being regular where you plug lights together, they twist, so that way rain won't get them in or anything. So they actually have people that they literally are stringing them up and down, and they connect to wires at the top of the building and at the sidewalk. The light show costs $250,000, and it is paid for by Downtown Rochester, the Rochester Downtown Development Authority, DDA, and the PSD, which is the Principal Shopping District. So for the lights, we've always said that it's less about the holiday, less about Christmas, and more about the lights themselves. Lights just make people happy, and you see all the shows on TV like the Great Christmas Light Fight, and people this year, I mean, cities are sold out of their Christmas lights in stores all over the country because I think it just gives people joy, and it doesn't matter what holiday you celebrate. And that's kind of how we looked at it. We just thought the lights were exactly that. They were a show. That's what we call it, the Big Bright Light Show. We never called it anything holiday or Christmas. So with that, the very first year that we did this, we had to get permission from every property owner and business owner to allow us to put the lights on their buildings. From that side, we made sure that everybody was comfortable with that. We have yet to have anyone tell us they don't want the lights on their building, because really, if you look at the lights, all of them as you go along, if there's one missing, the thing about this is that this is a way that we help, while it's a great thing that we offer for our community, it helps the businesses make money, especially this time of year. So without the lights, then they wouldn't make as much money. And so I think most of the businesses, whether they celebrate Christmas or not, they understand what the lights represent, and that it supports their businesses, supports the community, less about holiday, more just about happiness. And so we haven't had an issue with anyone not wanting the light. Of course, if someone ever said they don't want the lights on their building, then we simply just wouldn't put them on their building. Okay, so for the Christmas lights, a lot of people ask us, how do the buildings get which color? So what we did back in the day when we first did the Big Bright Light Show, the first round of buildings, we had asked the individual businesses what color they wanted. And of course, people couldn't get the same color right next to each other. So some people requested certain colors based on what they have on the front of their building with different colors that were already there. Other people said they didn't mind, whatever we wanted to choose. So the very first year we started out and we had 7 different colors in the show. As we expanded the show and LED lights, we were one of the first towns to ever do anything like this, that were using an LED light, and especially what I mentioned with there were twist locks. So now it's come so far that we can actually get custom color combinations made. So right now in the show, we have about 13 different colors, including some combinations. We have a ice white and pink. We have an ice white and teal, and we have candy cane, which is a red and bright white that we just added to the show. And those are ones that we just kind of mix in sporadically as new lights come available so that we can keep the show fresh. So when the lights first started, it was a very old school system where we actually had old style, almost like a lamp timer that we would have all the different blocks put on. Now we're a lot more sophisticated, so it's a wireless system. So any night that you come down at 5 o'clock, the wireless system has a timer, so it automatically goes on and alerts all the buildings, and so they light up. But on Lagniappe night, there is one master switch that we have to flip, because you never know what song Santa is going to sing, how long it's going to be, how long we're going to do the Light the Town chant. So that's why we have to actually flip it manually on Lagniappe night. This is the master control switch for the Big Bright Light Show right here. Many years ago, jokingly, we started calling it the Oz box, because I feel like the Wizard of Oz, because I have all the power. We also call it like the Lord of the Rings box. One ring to rule them all. In this case, one switch to rule them all. But I get to switch this on and off all the time. So I thought if somebody wanted to give me a little assistance, maybe someone else would like to light the show this time.
That would be so awesome. Okay, is everybody ready? 3, 2, 1, go. I kind of did feel like the Wizard of Oz. Flipping that switch and turning on all of the lights in the city of Rochester was a super cool feeling.
If I had to pick my favorite thing about the light show, and it's hard because it literally is my favorite thing that I was ever able to create here in my 22 plus years at the DDA, it's just this feeling of happiness when you come downtown and you see the people waiting in line to get into town and to park, and then when you get out and walk and you just see the happiness and you know all the memories that have been made through the lights. People that have gotten engaged in front of the show, they come and get their wedding photos in front of the show. Their Christmas card is the backdrop of the Big Bright Light Show. To know that we've made that kind of an impact on people's lives and that we've been able to put smiles on their faces, I can't think of anything else that could be better than that.
We learned a lot from Ms. Trevorrow about the Big Bright Light Show and how it came to be. She mentioned that there were helpers that put up the lights, and so that was the next group that we decided to interview this year. Our next community helper, Alex, and his electrician friends don't seem to be afraid of heights. Mr. Alex and the rest of the crew at Dan's Excavating are the electricians that are responsible for installing the lights in downtown Rochester. Let's learn a little bit more about what it takes to add those lights to our downtown businesses.
Hi, my name is Alex with Dan's Electrical. We are putting up Christmas lights.
You spend a lot of time looking at these lights. Do you have a favorite color strand?
Well, of course, it's Michigan State Week, so go blue, yellow and blue.
Putting up festive lights seems like a cool job. What do you do the rest of the year?
Most of us out here put up traffic signals. We're electricians by trade. We're traffic signal technicians. We build intersections and help maintain them.
How long does it take to put up the lights, and how long do you work?
About a month and a half every day, 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then towards the end, we will probably go to 6 days a week to make sure we get it done on time.
What if it rains? Do you still work when it's raining outside?
Depending on the severity of the rain, we won't work in the rain, but if it's just a slight drizzle, then we'll still continue to put up lights.
What happens if one light goes out? Does that mean all of the lights will go out?
If one light goes out, it's not a big deal. It won't knock out any of the other lights.
Thanks, Alex and the crew of Dan's Excavating for taking the time to speak with us. So at this point, we've talked to Ms. Trevorrow, we've talked to Mr. Alex about the lights and how they work. And both of them have mentioned that the lights are special, that they've turned into LED lights over time, and that if one bulb goes out, then the rest of the string won't go out, which seems pretty important when you're putting together a million lights for the Big Bright Light Show. But we don't really know how that works yet. So let's learn more about how those lights work from our virtual campus science guru and fifth grade teacher, Mr. Peterson. We're going to ask Mr. Peterson two main questions. Are there different types of light bulbs? And why is it that in some light strings, if one bulb goes out, all of the lights go out, but in other light strings, that doesn't happen?
Virtual Voyagers, welcome to Science Spotlight. I'm Mr. Peterson, and have you ever noticed that there's science all around us? And even this time of year, there's science all around us. Maybe you and your family decorate outside of your house, or maybe you decorate a tree inside of your house. What makes that decoration really special is the bright lights, and those lights are science. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how those lights work. But first you have to understand that there are different kinds of light bulbs. So up on the screen here you can see the older kind of light bulbs are known as incandescent bulbs. And those bulbs have a little filament that goes across, and that's where the electrons, the electricity flows through it, which allows it to glow. Here's the bad part. A lot of the energy that is flowing through that light bulb is also creating heat. And so those light bulbs get really hot. And they don't last quite as long. They can last up to 2,000 hours. And eventually, that light bulb is going to burn out. Now, the newer kind of bulbs we're using is what's known as LED bulbs. And those bulbs don't use that filament, and they're much more efficient, meaning that you save by not using as much electricity. And here's the other huge bonus to the LED lights. They last, are you ready for this? Up to 50,000 hours. That's a lot more than the 2,000 hours that the other bulbs have. Now, how do those lights that you put on your tree or outside your house work? Well, actually, they're a part of a series circuit. And that series circuit is all these little bulbs that are linked together, and the electrons flow through those bulbs and make them light up. And if it's the old school bulbs, like the incandescent bulbs, it goes through that filament and then to the next bulb. And here's the bad part. If one of those bulbs burns out, it closes that loop. The electrons can no longer flow around in that circle, and then all the lights go out. But now we use something called parallel circuits. And that way, if one of these bulbs burns out, the flow can still go around to all of the other bulbs. And so only one bulb burns out. So fun learning about science and the different kinds of light bulbs and the different kinds of circuits we have so that we can enjoy our beautiful lights this time of year. Thanks for joining me at the Science Spotlight.
Now that you've learned more about how the lights work, I'm wondering if you might be able to pause and answer this question. Why is it that in some light strings, if one bulb goes out, all the lights go out, but in other light strings, that doesn't happen? Can you use the picture to build an explanation about why that might be happening? And as an added bonus, could you think about maybe why it's better to have other lights, like LED lights, than to have the incandescent light bulbs? Mrs. Holmes talked about the importance of community helpers and helping us keep safe. And so that is our final community helper. We are so excited to welcome Chief Schettenhelm. Chief Schettenhelm is our Rochester Police Department's police chief. And he's going to teach us a little bit more about making safe choices when you visit community events downtown. Now, that could be the Big Bright Light Show if you visited over winter break, or it can also be future community events that we'll talk about at the end of this video.
Hey kids, hi. My name is Chief Steve. I'm the police chief here in Rochester, and you might notice police officers all the time out on different things when they're out on patrol, but most of the time you've probably seen them in their cars and you wave at them and they wave back when you're out in their neighborhood. But sometimes we're out on bicycles, sometimes we're on motorcycles, and today I'm out on a Segway. And a Segway is kind of a cool way to get around. I can stand up, I get to see things a little bit taller than everybody else, and it's pretty slick. If I just kind of moves my motion forward, it goes forward. If I lean back, it goes backwards. If I turn this, it will go to the right, this way to the left. So it's a kind of a cool way to get around and use in the downtown area. So tonight we're talking about what's happening with all the lights, and we hope you get a chance to come downtown and enjoy the lights and see everything that's down here. But we just want to make sure that everybody's safe when they're here. And so you want to make sure that you stay with your group, and so that no one gets lost when they're down here, that you stay up on the sidewalk and don't get close to the cars, and also make sure that you stay in the crosswalk. So you'll notice those painted crosswalk lines, and then by each corner there's a button that you can push, and that helps to set the light, so it allows you to get the opportunity to go across, because you'll see that walk sign, and then it's your turn to go across the street with your group. We always tell people that if for some reason you get separated, because there's always a lot of people downtown, just stay where you are, and because your parents and that, or adults that are with you, they'll be looking for you too. So you just want to make sure that you stay put, and that's the easiest way. One of the reasons that I'm wearing this vest today is you'll notice that there'll be police officers that'll be downtown, and they're always a good resource or somebody to come and stop and ask for help if you get lost or if you need assistance in any way. And one of the biggest things that we do when we're downtown and we're out on patrol is we answer questions. How do I get here? Where's a good place to get hot chocolate tonight? I'm looking for a particular store to buy a Christmas gift for mom or dad. Those questions we answer all the time down here. Sometimes people forget where they park their car. We give them help to find their car. So your police officers and firefighters and those people in uniform are always good helpers to look for if you ever need any help when you're out and about.
Hearing some safety tips from the chief himself was a pretty cool opportunity. It was amazing getting the chance to speak to Chief Schettenhelm. We also had another community helper to visit, and we went into the air. We not only considered the different viewpoints and perspectives of our community helpers, but we also literally gained a different view, from 70 feet in the air that is, with a little help from our friends at the Rochester Fire Department. And we hope you enjoy seeing what it looks and sounds like when you're going up to get a different view 75 feet above the road.
Hey kids, Mr. Frankowiak here. I'm up here with
Mr. Lindstrom, right over here.
Ryan Boss, firefighter paramedic.
It's pretty exciting to see the big bright light show up here. As you just learned, there's so much that goes into it, but we also want to thank our community partners, such as the fire department. Pretty neat when you can see the lights all the way from up here. Firefighter Brian, how high are we right now?
Let's see, probably 65, 70 feet, maybe a little bit more.
65 or 70 feet, maybe a little bit more. That's pretty high. Mr. Lindstrom, how you feeling?
This is a unique perspective up here, but it's pretty awesome. Looking down on the streets going through, I'm kind of loving it here.
All right, we're gonna turn it back over to our other presenters. Thank you so much for joining us from the aerial view of the big bright light show, kids.
So now is part 3, ways to think about how you might get involved. The first thing you might consider is visiting downtown. Community events are happening throughout the year in Rochester. In November and January, of course, the Big Bright Light Show, the feature of this virtual adventure, is unveiled in downtown Rochester, and it really goes through the end of January on select weekends. In January is also another upcoming and exciting event where sculptors come together to create ice sculptures, and they display them all around town where you can view them. This year's theme is Safari, so keep a lookout for that. And then, of course, in May, there's the annual Farmers Market, and that's open through October. If you want to learn more about different events that are happening in downtown Rochester, you can visit the Downtown Development Authority's website. The next thing that you can do to get involved is you can suggest new ideas. So you can share your ideas on our virtual campus survey that we're going to send out to suggest events for our school community. As part of that, you can even help design different experiences for students at our virtual campus. Finally, you can share your story. What are some ways you are involved in the community? Share your story with us and how you have community connections. We'd love to hear from you. During our virtual tour, we explored the people and perspectives that bring the Big Bright Light Show to life, how the light show works, and how to stay connected and get involved. We hope that you'll consider being involved in many of the amazing events that happen in downtown Rochester, as well as our school community in Rochester Community Schools. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon on our next adventure.